Did you
I
see
may
that
have to
too,
switch.
or did you purposely put that on there?
If you lose me, let me know because then I may have to switch cameras. So we are literally going live
Oh,
now.
good.
So do you want to bring us in?
Sure. Welcome to Conversations with Asha and Steve. I am Asha Prasad with my co-host Steve. How are you, Steve?
I am good. How are you?
Good. Let's see here. We're not having technical difficulties, but we are definitely both playing with different things here. So I hope we don't lose people.
Yeah, don't mind us and all the technical
No,
magic that's going on. I'm done messing with stuff because if I touch another cable, my camera's going to turn off. So it will
don't touch
not be good.
anything.
Yeah, so what are we going to talk about today, Asha?
So today we are actually doing part one of a series that we're doing, and today we're going to be talking about our health and getting ourselves ready as we go into.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Christina.
Christina.
Sorry.
I saw that. I'm like, thank you.
You just threw her
Um,
for a You just like totally threw her for a loop. She's like, "Oh, we are awesome humans. Let's talk about that."
we're going to talk about our awesomeness. No, no, but no, but we're going to talk about like how to get ourselves prepared for the winter months because they're right around the corner, and of course, health is I think on everybody's mind. How to stay healthy, how to really, and especially like I think Steve, as entrepreneurs, um, I think it's one of those things that we really have to take care of, give more attention to. We have to give like extra attention to. So yes, Steve, that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, and this is part of a three-part series that we're going to tackle.
Yes.
And that leads us right up into the holidays. And so we're talking about the end of the year. We're talking about how to get prepared for winter. We're talking about how to get our business mindset right in the
Yep.
next episode. And then we'll talk
Hmm.
about some of the common things that people start to do around that end of year period, which is start to set goals for the upcoming year. But
Yep.
today I'm super excited to dive into this because I think, and I put it out to my network and we
Hmm.
already have a couple of questions, but I think one of the things that I want to start with is why don't you let or remind our listeners and our viewers about what you do professionally aside from the coaching and aside from
Hmm.
being a best-selling author and an awesome podcaster and my awesome co-host. But tell everybody how you have a special interest in the health space and why this
Yeah.
is something that comes up year after year for a lot of your patients.
Yeah. So I am a doctor of chiropractic and I am more of a holistic practitioner. And what I mean by that is that it's not just about cracking backs for me, it's more about the holistic, the whole person, nutritionally, mentally, emotionally, all of those things. And that actually what I have my practices. I have two practices here in the Netherlands. And so I work with patients on a regular basis. But that also has spilled over into my coaching and mentoring and things that I do other than that, because this is something that comes up for almost everybody.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I take care of myself? Because we are the center of our lives. And if we're not doing well, then the rest of us is not either. Other aspects of our life are not operating well either. So
Well, you find that you have more of your patients and the folks that seek you out
mhm,
for the consulting and coaching side. Do you see that as you come towards the end of any year, especially this year though with COVID?
mhm,
But do you see as people come towards the end of the year that they start to reevaluate where they're at and sort of how they are either looking at how they're going to continue the momentum maybe they carried through the summer health
mhm,
wise into the winter, or are there concerns about the winter months ahead and being able to maintain, whether it be a weight, healthy,
mhm,
diet habits or just that physical activity that tends to get shut down because we have
right.
shorter and shorter days.
Yeah, you know what? This is a time of year, actually, even like I'm seeing it in the practices, of course, with patients, especially this year, because they're really concerned about what can I do? This is really something that I want to pay attention to. But I'm also seeing it, it's interesting, Steve, more of my online coaching clients, because I coach people from around the world. It's been very interesting to see how kind of everybody across the board is concerned about this right now. So it is a time of year anyway that we tend to start to reevaluate and think about, okay, what went right this week, what this year, and what do I want to do for the new year, and how do I get ready and to the transition into that. So it's kind of interesting, but I think that that's coming up more so now.
Absolutely. Well, so we had a couple of questions from a few
Sure.
folks that came in a little bit early. So one question is from Bobby.
Uh-huh.
He's from Boise, which is already starting to get cold. I understand.
Ooh. Yeah.
After coming down with COVID, sorry to hear that, Bobby.
Oh,
That they're finding it hard to or difficult to exercise.
yeah.
So, do you have some suggestions based on what you've seen for someone to start getting back going
Yeah.
physically, with exercise or any other aspects after they've been stricken with the COVID virus?
Yeah. You know what, Bobby, thank you so much for the question. This is something that I have seen actually a few of my patients that I deal with here in person that are recovering, and they're having the same kinds of things because they're, of course, with COVID. I mean, everybody gets affected differently, but the lung capacity is something that really takes a big hit. One of the things that I would advise you to do is to start slowly. First, start with some very easy breathing exercises. Work on
Hmm.
your breathing first, and try to get that going. And what I mean by that is like doing some deep belly breathing rather than keeping it shallow, because we want to be able to utilize the lungs that have been really affected by COVID, but we want to get our air deeper into our body. So that way, whenever we start to exercise, it gets a lot easier to do it and you can slowly start to build it up. I would say start slowly. Walking is probably one of the best things to do. Very light walking. You can do it around the house or if you have equipment at home, whatever it is. But you want to start with the breathing first and then kind of move into slowly starting with aerobic exercise.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great advice. And it is probably important to reemphasize, right? To start
Hmm.
slowly because after you've
Yes.
had COVID, right, those lungs are you seeing that it's taking quite a while for those lungs to
Yeah.
recover back to the state that they were prior to the disease?
It really is, Steve. It's amazing because it's really having a huge impact. I mean, I think that that's probably one of the most common symptoms that I am seeing with people that are still trying to recover. I mean, like even 6 months later, people are still having to deal with it. But I find that once they start really slowly, it's very, very important. Take your time with it and just understand, don't get frustrated with yourself because that's something that happens for all of us because we want to get back, we're used to being able to bounce back a lot quicker. But that's going to be something that they need to take some time with.
So I have a question for you.
Sure.
So about this time last year, actually, it was, probably I think the week after Thanksgiving,
Hmm.
uh, I went to Chicago to see the Dallas Cowboys play the Chicago
Hmm.
Bears with a buddy of mine, and both of us came back really sick. And it was
Mm.
really interesting. About mid-December,
Hmm.
we both came down with this thing. Neither one of us could kick it. Then
Hmm.
I got better. Actually went and visited my dad and for his
Yeah.
birthday, and then ended up taking him to a casino. And I normally have no problems, being in environments where
Yeah.
I'm asthmatic, but I've gotten used to it over the years. But this
Right.
casino didn't have great air filtration and it was very
Right.
smoky. And I came back and literally that first week of January, I was like dead, dead, dead. I haven't been that sick in a long time and
Right.
went to the doctor and they were like, we don't have the flu. It looks like just a respiratory virus. And this was before
Hmm.
COVID was actually,
Hmm.
really stated as a problem.
Yeah.
Are you seeing situations where either, through the medical community or through your own patients where you've seen people that have maybe,
Yeah.
contracted the virus early on and maybe didn't realize
Definitely.
it at the time?
Yeah, definitely, Steve. I want to tell you, I just had this conversation today with someone. Actually, the last 2 years, if not 3 years, but maybe about 2.5 years, I have been seeing some people getting these severe symptoms and nothing was happening. Like they were having a
Wow.
hard time recovering. So I really think one of the things that I think is important to understand is that even though we have become aware of COVID just this year, it has been around for a while. And it's just that the critical mass just built up to the point where a vast amount of people were infected at the same time. And that's what ended up happening. That's why we became really, aware of it and all these lockdowns and everything had to happen. But this has been going on. This has been around for a lot longer than what we realize.
Well, part of the reason I asked that,
Mhm.
I'm going to put Bobby's question back up
Yeah.
there because I think it's a good one. The reason I asked mine was because even though I seemed like I recovered by the end of January,
Hmm.
I was still playing competitive soccer at that point, and
Yeah.
I already have really poor lung capacity because I had
Right.
asthma as a kid, really
Right.
bad. So I have about 35% lung capacity, which is
Okay.
not a lot, and so a
No.
lot of scarring and a lot of challenges. But I never could seem to get my oxygen level back up
Mm.
to where it needed to be. And of course, haven't played soccer competitively since the lockdown in
Hmm.
mid March. So I'm not sure exactly how I responded, but I guess
Right.
part of the reason that I would emphasize what you said earlier to Bobby about taking it slow was I felt like I didn't know about it at the time, so I was pushing
Exactly.
myself continually, and it manifested in ways where physically I was just exhausted. I felt
Yeah.
like I could never catch my breath. Always felt like I was two or three steps behind where I normally was, and
Hmm.
obviously couldn't figure that out until the COVID situation evolved into the way that it
Right.
did. To know that I probably did have it early on.
Yeah, you probably did, Steve. And you know what? It is true. It's like if you push yourself, you're gonna like do more damage
Yep.
than good. So yeah, that's have you checked your saturation rates at all? Like your oxygen saturation rates? Have you checked that?
Yeah, it's back to normal. So we
Okay.
went and got one of those, things you put on your
Little things
finger,
on
and
the
I
finger.
track
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
And then, I have tested it from time to time when I've felt like I
Okay.
was maybe challenged a little bit. And for me, it's pretty normal rates. But
Okay.
would
That's
have
good.
been interesting to have tried it back then because I
Yeah.
think I was extremely taxing on my system for
Oh gosh.
sure.
Yeah.
So we have
Yeah.
another question.
Okay.
This one is from Brad Tomlinson. What's your take on going to the gym with COVID cases raging?
I I would stay away. Well, here's the thing, okay? I mean, if you can do things at home or make your own kind of gym routine at home, I would advise that. Or if you can work out outdoors, like at the
Okay.
gym, like some gyms are doing outdoors, then I would do it outdoors. The only reason why is because depends on how the rules are there. Now, I know here, I think we're on the partial lockdown again, so things are closed, and that's just not a non-issue now.
Wow.
We have to do everything at home. But in the States, I know things are still open. You just really don't know who you're coming in contact with. You don't know. I mean, you can clean everything and all of that stuff, but once you're really in your workout, yeah, I mean, things can get spread very, very easily. I would recommend, if you can, working out outdoors or, having your routine at home that you can do something at home. That's what I would advise. But
Well,
yeah,
that's good. I mean, it's good
yeah.
advice. I was really hesitant to go back to the gym. I'll be honest
Hmm.
with you. We still have obviously the rules at the gym that you've got to wear a mask, and
Right.
I am going back to the gym. I've been going 5 days a week for the last,
Yeah.
probably month and a half, 2 months, and so far I feel pretty good. But
Yeah.
you do have that sense of uneasiness because you
Yeah.
see people that aren't wearing their masks correctly, or
Exactly.
totally disregarding the situation after they get in the gym, which is always a concern. But
Exactly.
I think Brad's question's a pretty good one.
That is a good one.
I'd say I'm going, but I don't feel 100% comfortable. But that's
Yeah.
because really, as we get shorter days, means the sun comes up later and later, which
Yeah.
really, if I don't work out in the morning, and then I won't work out. That's
Yeah.
my biggest challenge. And so I've been trying to mix that up with gym sessions as well as doing a lot of hiking and walking, like you kind of suggested on the
Yeah.
onset. Let me ask you this question though, and thanks for that question, Brad. We really appreciate that. What do you say as people are starting to look towards the winter months, right? And
Hmm.
we're starting to figure out that we are moving towards days that are shorter. We're going to have a little bit less time. What type of routine would you suggest people do on a regular basis to really get
Hmm.
prepared for those winter months ahead? Walking and doing those things around the house are great, but what other things are you recommending to your patients to get prepared?
Yeah.
Because once you get into the winter months, it can be a bit, restrictive. So, do
It
you
can.
suggest any specific routines or any type of things that you maybe recommend to your patients?
Well, one of the things, Steve, like whenever you ask that question, one of the things that I think about that we tend to, and it's not an active thing. It's about getting enough rest and getting
Mm,
enough sleep because there's a reason. Whenever the days start getting shorter, it is about. I mean, think about what animals do. They go hibernate. I'm not
yep.
saying that we need to hibernate, but
It'd
which
be good. I'll volunteer.
I know. I mean, you could, but it is about listening to that rhythm, that natural rhythm of like, it's time to rest. It's time to kind of go inward a little bit. So don't over or underestimate that you need to get rest and proper sleep. You may have a tendency to want to sleep a little bit longer. You may want to get more rest and catch up on those Z's because that's going to help build your immunity as well. But like as far as like the routines with walking and stuff, yeah, walking and doing stuff around the house. I mean, one of the things that I love to do is encourage people to do regular stretching routine, have
Hmm.
small hand weights or TheraBands or whatever it is, do some of that stuff in house. If you are able to, like, I don't, depending on where you live, if you are able to get out and hike, I mean, it's always better to be outside. But I think it's
Sure.
about listening to that kind of natural rhythm. It's interesting because I have a friend of mine who lives in a climate where it gets dark. I mean, it gets really dark, meaning they have like 22 hours of darkness
Wow.
in the winter time. And he has adapted his whole schedule and his practice hours based upon that. It is the wildest thing as they go closer to the winter because he believes that, you know what, going with the natural rhythm is where we have to listen to that. Like we have to listen to it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah,
Yeah, it
it's
does.
kind of interesting.
Absolutely. Well, I would say probably one of the things that I think is important for people to remember is, yeah, you got to listen to your body, and even though you're potentially maybe feeling like you want to sleep more because the winter months kind of
Hmm.
are kind of like that. It's like cyclical,
Yeah.
right? I think one of the big aspects is just getting up and doing something daily, right? Trying
Oh
to
yeah.
figure out
Yeah.
something physical that you can do. And the nice thing about, if there is anything nice about the COVID situation, is because so many people were at home during these
Hmm.
last, 6, 7 months,
Yeah.
there's an abundance of content online now about how
Yes.
to utilize and create your own home workouts, right?
Yeah.
Without necessarily expensive gym equipment or,
Exactly.
utilizing common objects around the house that you already
Yeah.
have. You don't have to go out and buy a set of weights, or you don't have to go get a total gym or do any of
Yeah.
these, spend $3,000 on a Peloton. Although I still want one, it'd be awesome. If they decide they want to sponsor our show
Hey.
and provide the hosts, some bikes, we would be happy to give you reviews about how great it is. Just throwing it out there as a potential. But uh, it's amazing how many great workouts there are without actually having to do
Yeah.
anything other than use your body weight as that resistance, right?
I think that's one of the best ways to work out actually is to use your own body weight and do those exercises. And there's tons out there. There's tons of classes that you can join online too for
Yep.
free, which is awesome. So definitely explore that.
Yeah. So the one question I would have for you is, I had somebody tell me years ago that if you just strive to do 20 minutes of something,
Hmm.
just enough to get a little bit of sweat going,
Yeah.
that it will pay off dividends. What's your medical opinion of that? Is that a old wives' tale, or is that accurate? What's your take?
No, it definitely, 15 to 20 minutes every single day where you are really getting not to your maximum heart rate, but you're getting a little bit, breaking a sweat is
Yep.
really good. It conditions the heart, it gets the blood pumping. One of the things I love to do, Steve, I was just thinking about this because I just moved it into another room just earlier today, is I love to jump on my mini trampoline, for example. I know, hey, you know what? To each their own, but just I love that thing. And it's like 10 minutes on that thing, even 5 minutes on that thing, you
Yep.
get your heart rate up. It's
Really?
you really do. It's really interesting. And then if you start adding weights and doing all this other stuff to it, it really gets crazy. But 15 to 20 minutes a day is definitely a very, very healthy balance. So just do something. Do
Yeah.
something.
It's kind of funny. I've incorporated, especially during lockdown when the gym
Mhm,
wasn't open, I tried to tie that into activities I was doing throughout
mhm.
the day. So I brought
Yeah.
some free weights up to the office when I was
Yeah.
here and by myself. And even though we were theoretically supposed to be working from home, that wasn't possible for my son to be able to stay online and do his high school stuff. So I was up here and I brought the free weights, but 2 or 3 times a day, in
Yeah.
between calls or meetings or whatever,
Yeah.
I will have certain exercises that I do. But
Yeah.
then, even without the weights, one of the things that I tend to do a lot is I'll do deep knee bends. I'll do a lot of
Yeah.
stretching. I'll do push ups against the counter as I'm waiting for the coffee to fill my
Yeah.
cup. Just these little things are pretty
Yeah.
significant. And I saw pretty major improvements in my own physical
Yeah.
performance, which was kind of cool to see. But then the flip side of that is people that don't often think like I don't really want to dedicate 30 minutes to working out and
Yeah.
whatever. Why don't you find a way to do it where you incorporate it into your daily routine for household
Exactly.
chores, right? So
Yeah.
in between calls,
Exactly.
you get up, do a stretch, or lift some weights, find something within the house that allows you the flexibility to kind
Yeah.
of has a little bit of weight, but not a lot, right? And
Yeah.
just doing
Exactly.
some different arm exercises can be big. Just holding it
Yeah.
out in front of you as you do some deep knee bends can be good.
Yeah.
But actually tying it into a chore, like, hey, look, I'm going to
Yeah.
do 25 push-ups, then I'm going to fold the towels, or I'm going to,
Yeah.
do 50 sit-ups, and then I'm going to, mow the lawn.
Yeah.
I'm going to vacuum the carpet or mow the carpet, depending
Roll
on,
the carpet. I mean,
could be the old shag carpet. I have no idea, but the way my parents sold shag carpet, you definitely have to mow it. But anyway, those little things as you
Yeah.
move towards the winter can actually continue to keep you on track physically, but
Yeah.
also kind of add a little bit of variety to the common activities that we do throughout the day
Yeah.
that, just make you feel better about yourself. And really, that's what I think, that physical movement is all about, right?
It really is. And you know what, Steve? I love that because the thing is that you would be amazed. I mean, most people don't want to just take 30 minutes out and just do whatever. But by the time you do that throughout the day, it accumulates up until 30 to 45 minutes, maybe even an hour, and you don't even feel it. You don't even
Yeah,
feel like you've done that, which is really
absolutely.
great.
Well,
Yeah.
and any kind of physical exercise, that exertion that you put out towards your
Yeah.
body, I think during the day has a dividend for you at the end of the day because you
Yeah.
feel a little bit more prepared to go to bed. You'll sleep a little bit
Exactly.
more soundly. You'll feel a little bit more refreshed when you get up the next day.
Yeah.
And it's just a little bit, it's like little increments. If you'll just do
Yeah.
a little bit to start, then it gets a little easier and easier to do it each and
Exactly.
every day.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
So, switching gears, so we talked about
Hmm.
exercise, but as we move towards the winter months,
Hmm.
what about diet? What are you recommending for your
Mm.
clients in terms of trying to maintain, a healthy, generalized approach
Yeah.
to eating better?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is that you want to eat variety, just like we want to eat variety all throughout the year, meaning lots of vegetables, though, lots of vegetables and fruits. You want to make sure that you're getting the vitamins that you need in. Of course, you can supplement. I do recommend supplementing with vitamin D. Um, and vitamin C, for example, you can definitely get very readily through your diet, but it's about variety. And it's also, the winter months, it's like I love making like soups or stews or things that you can throw a bunch of different stuff in that's very hearty and you
Yeah.
feel like, I don't know, it makes you feel cozy and warm inside, but it's cold outside. But it's also very good for you. And it's not going to contribute to, putting on extra pounds maybe that some of
Yeah.
us do in the wintertime. But that's the biggest thing I would say is making sure that you get variety. And
Yep.
supplementation, I know there's controversy about that, but if you're totally against supplementation, if there's only one vitamin that you'll take, please take vitamin D3. That's the one thing that
You
I would definitely recommend to
really?
take the sunshine vitamin, and we don't get a lot of it anyway. Even when we live in sunny places, we tend to be inside too much. So,
Ah.
yeah,
No, that's good. That's really good. D3.
yeah, vitamin D3. Yes.
Awesome. Well, Christina, I think was her comment
Yeah,
came in just a little bit late, but she wanted to know, can she just wear ankle weights and walk around?
absolutely. That does help. You know what? I have these wrist weights that sometimes I'll use. They're smaller than the ankle weights, but sometimes I'll just be walking around doing stuff around the house with it, and it's fantastic. You get a little bit of a workout that way.
Yeah, any little bit of resistance
Yes.
is good for you. I mean, even if you're walking around with some water jugs
Yeah.
or
Exactly.
just anything to add a little bit of resistance can
Yeah.
get that cardio, that heart rate up, which is good for your cardio fitness, which is good to get the blood pumping and
Exactly.
certainly make some strides physically that way.
Yeah.
Ironically, Christina is actually a chef, and
Oh,
she's going to be
nice.
going to culinary school next year, provided COVID opens up. So
Okay, where is she going
I'll have
to?
to connect you guys because I bet you would have
Yeah.
lots to share. But one thing along the diet aspect, Asha, is do you recommend that people mix in anything specific on their diet more so in the winter months than you would normally?
Well, like I was saying, Steve, vitamin C, things with vitamin C, like those kinds of things, like citrus fruits and these kinds of things, you want to make sure because we tend to not want to eat those in the winter months. We tend to want to eat those in the summer months. But if you can, and also the other thing is that if you are in a location that you can kind of eat whatever the seasonal fruits and vegetables are, that's also something going back to kind of going with the rhythm and the cycle of, nature as well, that will really help because we have these cycles where certain vegetables are readily available. I mean, now in our world, I mean, we just get so much from everywhere. So we can get things all year round, but you just kind of want to be aware of that. So, yeah. Oh gosh, I just saw. Oh, that sounds yummy, Christina. I just read your comment. That sounds really yummy. Yes.
Vegan broccoli soup. That does sound pretty tasty. I've got friends that have like completely taken meat out of their diet.
Hmm.
Do you recommend that? What do you recommend? I mean, on
It's,
it is I've read that you should reduce your consumption of
yeah.
meat, those types of proteins during the winter because they tend to be heavy and they hold
Yes.
on longer.
Yes. Definitely so. I mean, Steve, for myself, I don't really eat a whole lot of meat. I mean, and when I say meat, the only things I eat are fish and occasionally chicken, and that's about it. Everything else is vegetables and fruits and everything else, grains and that kind of stuff.
So you're a
Um,
pescatarian.
yeah, something like that. Whatever.
I just totally made that term up. I don't know.
I like that. I like that. Yes, that's what I am. Yes. But it is true. Meat is anyway very heavy.
Yep.
And yes, it is something that you want to, it doesn't mean that you have to give it up, but in moderation, really
Yep.
in moderation.
Absolutely. Well, are there any other tips that you might give? The D3 is an
Hmm.
excellent suggestion, and I'm not even sure that I know that I actually don't take that, so I'm going to
Yeah.
definitely look into that a bit more. Are there any other potential vitamin C, but trying to get that through your foods more
Yeah.
so than just the tablets, right? Just the
It's better. I mean, I know that people, especially now with COVID going around, a lot of people are supplementing extra, and there's nothing wrong with that because your body's going to use whatever it can, and then it's going to probably discard the rest of it. Okay. So it's not a bad thing if you take extra, but do try to get it out of your foods. It's always better because then your body can metabolize it a lot better. But vitamin C, vitamin D3, zinc is another one, but we do get that in a
zinc.
lot of foods as well. And also for people that are really like that get sick a lot or tend to get colds, and I recommend a really good probiotic to help keep the gut bacteria healthy. Super, super important because that's really where our immunity really kind of starts in a way. So we want to make sure, and that's also a reason why to reduce meat consumption as well, because that tends to change the bacterial flora in the gut and the intestines. So,
Do you recommend like yogurts to get that natural
um,
bacteria that I think is in yogurt, right?
yeah, you know what? There are probiotics in yogurt, but there's so many different strands, Steve. Like, a lot of
Mm.
people, any kind of pickled vegetables, like even like kimchi or any of those kinds of things. Those not many people eat that, but you know what I mean, like those kinds of things.
Yeah.
One thing that I was just talking to a patient actually yesterday about, which it's not about probiotics, but it does help kind of like clean the gut area. Is and I know it's going to sound gross, but celery juice.
What?
It's really not that bad.
Somebody juices celery? It has
Listen,
no
listen.
flavor when you eat it
It's
like
like
normally.
having
Why would you
Bloody
want to drink?
Mary without the Bloody Mary part.
Yeah, like what the hell? I mean, I like celery. Don't get me wrong. With like some chicken wings and like some peanut butter and raisins on that.
but but it's healthier for so many I know it sounds, you know what, give it a try. But I mean, I wouldn't just do celery juice by itself. I would do like, celery, cucumber, lemon, like mix everything up and just blend it, and it'll probably taste better.
Yeah. I mean, so along that lines, do you recommend doing a lot of the juicing and or the smoothies? I mean, do you have an
Yeah, you know
attitude
what?
about, or kind of a preference over one or the other, or which is better, or both,
You know
or
what? Definitely juicing is probably better. Like when we're talking about the winter months, I would say
yeah,
like juicing it probably is better. But smoothies is more like I find more for the spring and summertime.
yeah,
But juicing you can do all year round. And I mean, there's just it's amazing what you all the juices that you can have, and you can get a really, really good shot of vitamins for that way. So
yeah.
if that's
Well,
the
like
way
you
that you
said,
like
like
it, yeah.
soups and whatnot are also
Yep.
another good way to get your vegetables. So if you don't want to juice your celery, you can at least put some celery in your soup. You can tell I'm, we're definitely never going to get a celery juicing sponsor
No,
ever.
no.
Well,
Oh man.
along that lines of not endorsing one product or the other,
Yeah.
but if Peloton does want to contact us again, our phone lines are open for sponsorship and free bikes. And I know Christina made a comment about that. She'd take one as well. So we need three. But without endorsing anybody, the
Mhm.
supplements, there's so many.
I
I
know.
read an article, or excuse me, I listened to an interview on NPR recently about
Mhm.
how some of the supplements that you get at, your drugstore or your
Yeah.
grocery store, a lot of those are not regulated by, any
No.
type of government body. Like here in the US, it's the FDA. A
Yeah.
lot of those things can go out on the market. There's no quality control tests or any of that.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations if someone was like, hey, look, I really do want to get better control of my life?
Yeah.
Time to do it is as I get towards the end of this quarter and move towards 2021. And I
Yeah.
really want to get on a better regiment, so D3 you mentioned, obviously
Yeah.
zinc and vitamin C. Do you have recommendations on companies that you've vetted that are pretty good? That
Yeah, you know what, Steve? This is what I would say. If anybody's interested, just drop a comment in the comment box and I'll, message
okay,
you privately. I think that'll probably be the best way to do it because you're right. There's so many different companies, but there are some companies that I've done a lot of research with and worked with over the years that I know that their quality control is so much better and their quality of their products are it's going to be really noticeable because a lot of times the stuff that you get in the drugstores and the grocery stores, they're just not what they're cracked up to be.
yeah,
And you want to make sure that if you're going to take something, that you're going to take something that the body can work with and can use. So definitely drop a comment in there, and I'll be happy to message you some recommendations.
awesome.
Yeah,
Well, and I put up on our banner the
yeah,
Prasad Method .com,
yeah,
and as we wind down, maybe this is a great segue to tell everyone that doesn't know about your website or where to find you.
yeah,
You're on all the social media at the Prasad Method,
yeah.
and you've
That's
got
right.
your website, theprasadmethod.com. But what is the Prasad Method?
So the Prasad method is a methodology that I work with my clients into helping them really bring their life into alignment and in every single way, whether that's in their business, whether that's in their personal life, whether it's all of it together, whatever it is. And also I do work with my clients, even my coaching clients, on health kind of issues as well. If that comes up, a lot of times that tends to come up.
Yep.
But that's something that I developed over the years, and so you can check out my website and learn more about that.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely for everybody that will hear this podcast and or see this video, definitely check out the prasadmethod.com. Asha, this has been like really insightful. I know this is your lane and it's your area for sure. And I'm super glad that we can, we wanted to tackle this. We're
Yeah.
doing this as part of this was the first part of a 3-part series. Next time we are together,
Mhm.
we're going to have a conversation about, okay, how to prepare our business for the
Yeah.
finish out for the 2020, and then ultimately how to prepare for 2021 because it'll be here before you know it. And then
Yeah.
we will likely finish up with our third and probably our final episode
Yeah.
for the year before we take a break and move into the holiday season. We'll be talking about goal setting and sort of planning for what's coming in 2021.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a good, segue because you've got to get yourself ready and prepared mentally and physically to prepare for the
Exactly.
winter. And you want to certainly start to take steps to make sure that you're preparing yourself to stay healthy and well
Yes.
during these coming months, because that is going to be important with more people in their homes and being confined because of
Yeah.
limitations because of the daylight hours. You want to make sure that you're taking steps to prepare yourself physically for that transition. But then as you look towards the new year, what do you want to do with your career? What do you want to do with your businesses?
Exactly.
We'll be talking about all aspects of that in the next session. And of course,
Yeah.
everybody at the end of the year wants to plan for goals, but we're going to talk about
Yes.
specifically how to do goals that will actually be achievable and ultimately will set you on the path for success for 2021. So we're super excited to tackle these next two episodes and have
Yeah.
these conversations.
Sounds great, Steve. Thank you so much. Steve, I have a question before we sign off.
Yeah.
First, tell everybody how they can get in touch with you and also about your new book that's out.
Well, thanks. I just posted a comment. Christina is definitely going to be tuning in because she's ready for some goal setting. So that's
Okay,
pretty
great.
awesome. We're excited about that. Yeah, people can find me. All my information is on ripplecentral.com.
Mhm.
I'm on all the social medias at Rippleon, Rippleon, as you see on the screen there, or maybe hearing on the podcast. And yeah, my new book, the third edition of the Ripple Effect: Maximizing the Power of Relationships for Your Life and Business, will be out officially November 2nd. If you want to
Hey.
take advantage of some great pre-order opportunities, some good promotions that we've got
Mhm.
going on for the upcoming launch. We've got some pre-order possibilities there for you to check out. So pretty excited. This
Good.
is the book has continued to sell really, really well. The second edition did way better than I ever expected.
Mhm.
And people are asking me, why do you want to do a third edition? Can't you come up with anything new? It's not that. I have plenty of new stuff I'm ready to write
Yes.
on, but this book has been a labor of love, and I've actually over the last say 9-10 years since the second edition came out, the book has evolved. There have been more stories that I've collected. There have been a
Mhm.
lot more Ripple, sort of people that want to tell you about what their experience of the Ripple has been for
Mhm.
their business and for their own personal life, and I wanted to include those. And so we added some additional content relative to how to connect in these very unusual, very strange times that we're in with COVID. So
Yeah.
there's some unique chapter. There's some unique strategies within a chapter about connecting during COVID and how to connect using platforms like what we're on right now.
Yeah.
Social networks, Zoom calls, those types of things. So
Yeah.
we're getting
Perfect.
really good reviews early on, so we're pretty excited about it. But yeah, if you want to check
Great.
out more, it's at ripplecentral.com. For the time being, it's not up on Amazon yet, so
Okay.
that is the only place to get it. You get an exclusive there, and I can sign and autograph it for you. So,
Perfect. Perfect. Definitely, I
yes,
invite everybody and encourage everybody to check that out.
thank you very much. And obviously, Asha has a book out as well. You can learn more about that at
Yeah.
theprasadmethod.com. And she's working on her next book, which
Yes,
will
I
be
am.
out, I think, early January.
Yeah, you need to let Mark know that because he'll be like, "What?
Our
What?"
common editor, and hey, I'm prompting you like I was
Oh,
instructed
yeah.
to do.
Okay.
So well, hey, listen, everybody, thank you very much for listening to the podcast and checking in on the live stream. We greatly appreciate it. If you have interest, go back and check out some of our prior episodes. This is our third season doing this. We
Yeah.
love it. We're getting really good feedback from people about how much they're enjoying these conversations, and we do appreciate you tuning in all the time. And we will be back very soon with our next episode. So thanks for
Perfect.
joining us.
Thank you, Steve.
Take care, Asha.
Take care.